everyone. It is always amazing to be here in Pennsylvania and to be here with all of you. We worked so hard on tax cuts and tax reform. And the president, my father, was very specific about what he wanted to accomplish. It was so core to him to support hardworking, middle-income families, and the child tax credit is key to doing that. So it's going to be a big win for everyone in this room and everyone across this country, and we are very, very excited about that. Doubling the standard deduction, the child tax credit, all of these elements that make this a very family-friendly plan, but also enable great American businesses like this one to thrive and be competitive in a global landscape. So we're very proud of it, and America is just starting to realize just how great our tax cut plan is. So more of that to come, but thank you for having me here. Thanks.
Thank you, baby. Thank you very much, Ivanka. She worked hard. She's a hard worker. All of our kids are hard workers, right? They work, and we love to see it. And they're doing a terrific job for our country. I've come to the great city of Pittsburgh to stand with people, and those people are incredible workers, and to show the world that America is back and that we are coming back bigger and better and stronger than ever before, and we're making our own product again, and we're opening up our factories again. I mean, you take a look at what's going on where Toyota's coming in, and the other day you just saw Chrysler announce they're moving from Mexico back to Michigan. You don't hear that too often. With a big, big monster factory, going to spend a lot of money. At the center of America's resurgence are the massive tax cuts that I just signed into law. And it's also reform, but I usually just say tax cuts because that's what people, when they don't want to hear about the reform. Believe me, the reform is very important. We don't have to go into it. But the tax cuts are the most significant tax cut, most significant reform in American history, with tremendous tax relief for working families, for small businesses, for big businesses that produce jobs, for just about everybody. Tremendous numbers, and you're already seeing what's happening. You're seeing what's going on. The signs of America's comeback can be seen at companies like this one, which just had its most successful year in its 35-year history. Congratulations. Good job. And I just learned from the powers that be that H&K Equipment will soon be making a $2.7 million capital investment thanks to the new tax cuts. So I appreciate that, and the workers appreciate that. It's good. You're doing great. Great job. Great equipment. That means more growth, and ultimately it means more jobs. So congratulations. We have created nearly 2.2 million jobs since the election. The unemployment rate is at now an 18-year low. I would say 17 years, and now it just lifted to 18 years. The number of Americans applying for unemployment benefits just hit a 45-year low. Something I'm really proud of, because I've been saying it. What do you have to lose? African American unemployment is at its lowest level ever recorded. Female unemployment is at the lowest level in 17 years. Hispanic American unemployment has hit its all-time lows. Lowest ever. Pensions and retirement accounts are surging in value as the stock market smashes one record high after another. How many people have 401ks here? You're brilliant investors. I've had people come up, sir, my wife thinks I'm the most brilliant investor because I made 42% in the last 10 months. and that's pretty good. But people are happy. Anybody unhappy with the 401k? I don't think so, right? Wow. If we can keep it like this, we're going to win a lot of elections, that I can tell you. It's something. No, it's something. It's the economy, stupid. Did you ever hear that one? It's the economy. It is indeed. As soon as, really a few weeks from now, millions of American workers will be seeing the signs of America's comeback in their paychecks in February. Very simply, your paychecks will be much bigger because under our tax cuts, you will be keeping more of your hard-earned money. We are doubling the child tax credit, increasing the refundable credit by 40%. 40, not 14, 40. And we are making the child credit available to more families than ever before, not even close. When we began our push for tax cuts, I promised that our bill would result in more jobs, higher wages, and tremendous relief for middle-class families. And that is exactly what we have delivered. There's only one thing. Even I never knew how big it would be. It's much bigger, and you see it, than anybody anticipated. We kept our promise. In Pennsylvania alone, families will see a tax cut of about $11 billion just this year alone. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. A typical family of four earning $75,000 will see an income tax cut of more than $2,000 a year. This is like a $2,000 raise, slashing their income tax bill in half. Many will save much more than that. Ken Wilson is a great example. Where's Ken? Ken Wilson, the legendary Ken Wilson. Hi, Ken. Come on over here where we see you, Ken. You got to be happy with this. Is Ken doing a good job? Ken's doing a good job. Everybody knows Ken. Come on over here, Ken. Come on up here, Ken. Come on, if you can make it. He'll figure out how to get that thing open. If he can't do it, nobody can, right? That's what he does. He works on machinery all the time. Ken joined H&K 14 years ago as a mechanic and worked his way up to become a project foreman. Because of our tax cuts, Ken will save almost $2,200 in income taxes. $2,000. So Ken, you just got a $2,200 raise, huh? Come here. And if I had a head of hair like that, I really would have been. I would have been president years ago, Ken. Years ago. But we've nearly doubled the amount of income taxed at the rate of zero. So Ken, you've seen a big difference?
Absolutely.
Come here. Thank you, man. He said just the right thing. You never know. Want to say something to your workers. Say something to your co-workers.
It's not just me, it's everybody as a whole. This company is an incredible company. We work with a bunch of great people. Everybody pulled together this week and pulled this off. It was a sight to see. It's something to always remember here. So thank everybody. Obviously, thank you, Mr. Trump. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. He did good. He didn't know about that. He didn't know at all about that, right, Ken? Good job. And because we substantially reduced tax rates on American companies, economists estimate that annual household income will rise by an average of $4,000. Think of that. More than 2 million American workers have already received a tax cut bonus from their employers, pay raises, more money for retirement, checks as high as $2,000 or more, all because of our tax cuts. And it hasn't even been a month since I signed the bill. It's turned out to be much bigger than we all thought. Even the people that did it, right, Gary, and right, all of the congressmen that voted for us and fought so hard, Nobody had any idea. One thing we didn't project in a positive way, nobody thought that the companies were going to step up and pay all of these great bonuses to people. AT&T started it, but they came up and they paid all of these bonuses. A Florida software company, Spellex, just announced $1,000 tax cut bonus for its workforces. Apple just announced they are giving their employees tax cut bonuses worth $2,500 each. And because of our business tax reforms, Apple has just announced that they are bringing $350 billion and putting it into investment into our country. $350 billion. 350. That's a lot. And when I heard the news yesterday, and Tim Cook is a great guy, the head of Apple, and when I heard the news, I heard $350 billion. I said, you mean $350 million? That's going to be a beautiful plant. They said, no, it's $350 billion. And I just called Tim Cook and I thanked him. But I don't imagine there's ever been an investment that big in this country by a company. And just think of what that means. And they're going to build plants. And I think some of you remember, I said, I will not consider our economic situation complete until we get Apple to start building some of those massive plants in the United States. They're going to build plants. They're going to build a big campus. They're really going to town. So we want to thank Apple. $350 billion. Right? Pretty good. Here in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, thousands of workers have already received tax cut bonuses thanks to employers like Comcast, Nextier Bank, American Airlines, PNC Financial, names I'm very familiar with. One of those hardworking Pennsylvanians is Kevin Hodis. Kevin is a Marine Corps veteran who received a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart for his courageous service during 3 tours in Iraq. And a great, proud person. Where's Kevin? Where is Kevin? Kevin? He kept that hand out like he didn't want to come up and speak. Thank you, Kevin. He started working for Comcast in 2016, and last week he received a $1,000 bonus check thanks to our tax cuts right out of Comcast, right into his bank. Now he's taken his family on a well-deserved vacation, Kevin, to visit his grandparents in Florida, right? Thank you, Kevin. See you in Florida. I want to thank you for your service, for your patriotism, and congratulations for the bonus. It's really great. Millions of people. Not only are we already seeing the benefits of higher wages and bigger salaries, much bigger salaries, but we're also seeing the creation, very importantly to me, of new jobs. Pete O'Connor owns a personnel company called Carroll Harris Staffing right here in Pittsburgh. Pete says that businesses of all kinds are seeing increased demand just recently, and they're hiring more and more workers. And that's only really great news, not only for Pete, it's great news for all of the people in Pittsburgh, for the citizens of Pennsylvania and Americans all across our country. Where's Pete? Pete? Thank you, Pete. You're seeing a big difference, right? Big difference? Big difference. We're putting America back to work, and we're ensuring the forgotten men and women of our country are never, ever forgotten again. Remember the deplorables. The deplorables. We're all deplorables. Who would have thought that was going to turn into a landslide, right? Who would have thought that was going to turn in? That was not a good phrase that she used. Some things you'd like to have back. And the good news keeps pouring in. Americans' monthly utility bills are also going down because major electric companies have announced they will pass their savings from taxes onto their customers. Tremendous reduction in certain companies and people's energy costs. That means we're not only seeing higher wages, but lower energy bills. And that's because of the tax cuts, but it's also because of the regulation cuts. When I spoke to the folks in the plant, they said the biggest thing is what's happened is regulations, cutting of the regulations. And we have regulations, but they're fair and they're reasonable. And they're actually just as stringent. But you go to one group for an okay. You don't have to get it 19 different times or 7 times or go to different agencies. It's within the realm of reasonable, and that's why people are opening up, they're expanding, and they're hiring more people. Our tax bill also took a historic step to restore health care freedom. No longer will the federal government punish you for fines if you can't afford an Obamacare mandated health plan, because we repealed Obamacare's cruel individual mandate, where you were supposed to go out and you pay in order not to have to buy health care. Think of it. It should have been rejected a long time ago by a lot of different people, including the courts, surprisingly. But we were able to repeal it. We got rid of the individual mandate, and you'll see what that means. It is such a big factor for so many people. It was so unfair. It's gone. We've also opened up ANWR in Alaska for energy exploration, creating even more jobs and more energy savings. But that's the biggest one. They've been trying to do that since Ronald Reagan. For over 40 years, they've been trying to open ANWR. We got it open. There's never been a better time to hire in America, to invest in America, and to believe in the American dream than right now. There is no limit to what we can achieve when we set free the dreams of our incredible people. You're incredible people. Americans crossed oceans, tamed the wilderness, dug out the Panama Canal, and launched a man onto the face of the moon. American hands and grit poured the concrete in our highways and forged the steel in our skyscrapers. Americans built the Hoover Dam, the magnificent Hoover Dam, if you've ever seen it. The Empire State Building, they built it in 1 year. Nobody knows that. 1 year. It was actually less than 1 year. The Empire State Building. We won 2 world wars. Americans do anything, build anything, and create anything as long as we have pride in our country, confidence in our values, and respect for our great American flag. Right? Because America doesn't belong to the Washington power brokers. It belongs to you, and I think we've taught them that. Doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean it's easy. It's nasty in Washington, but step by step by step, just keep going, right? It is a nasty place. Woo. But we're getting it. Nobody thought we were going to have this kind of success so quickly. Thank you, darling. It belongs to the American people. With our destiny in your hands, America will once again be a nation that thinks big, dreams bigger, and always reaches for the stars. Nothing will keep this incredible nation of ours down. Nothing will stop us from reaching the highest peaks, because nothing is stronger than the strength and will and spirit of the American people. You are the ones who will shape America's destiny, especially all of these beautiful young people in the front. You are the ones who will restore our prosperity, and you are the ones who are making America great again. So As many of you know, that's what I talked about. Make America great again. America first. We put America first now. We're doing trade deals. We're doing a lot of things that I said we were going to be doing. It's not easy. These other countries have become very, very spoiled with taking advantage of us. But take advantage of us no longer, because now we want their country. For them, it should be their country first. But for us, it's America first. That's the way it is. So I want to thank the people of the great, great, great state of Pennsylvania. You remember that big night on November 8th? Donald Trump has won the state of Pennsylvania, right? And I want to thank the people in this room. You are my friends. You are truly great, great people, and you are making America tick. You are really very special. Thank you all for being here. God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
The president speaking, Coraopolis, Pennsylvania, Allegheny County. Not by happenstance either. There's a House up there in March. The Republicans have owned that seat for like 16 years, but there's some question when this new sort of turnaround thing going on about whether they'll be able to hold it. So the president is there unofficially campaigning for a Republican candidate, while back in Washington there is one discussion: government shutdown. Of course, with one party in charge of everything, a government shutdown will not happen, right? I mean, never in the history of, or at least modern history of the country, has there been a government shutdown when a single party is in charge of Washington. Hook, line, and sinker. House, Senate, White House, one party in charge, that's it. Republicans have it all. Yet the possibility of a government shutdown has escalated. The problem is really in the Senate, but listen to what's happened in the House of Representatives. Members are set to vote at 7 p.m. tonight on a stopgap spending measure, one of those short-term bills to keep the government funded for a few weeks. Again, our senior producer on Capitol Hill, Chad Pergram, who's very plugged in, says lawmakers on both sides of the fence are daring the others across the aisle to vote against it. The House plan funds the government through the middle of next month. It does not include protection for the Dreamers, the hundreds of thousands of immigrants whose parents brought them here without documents. It does include a 6-year extension of the Children's Health Insurance Program, or CHIP, something Democrats have demanded. If you've been watching TV at all or reading online, you know that the GOP plan was to dare the Democrats to vote against that measure, saying, "We funded the Child Health Insurance Program, or CHIP, for 6 years. You're going to vote against children's health?" I know you've heard this line. It's been everywhere. Well, this morning, while Republicans were trying to get their own votes and their own caucus together, the president blasted out a tweet against the Republican leadership's very plan. One he apparently, well, here's the tweet. CHIP should be part of a long-term solution, not a 30-day or short-term extension. See the thing there? Seems he wants CHIP funded, but not yet. Anyway, we're told Paul Ryan talked to the White House and they worked it out. The president now supports the stopgap resolution. So now the House Republicans think they have the votes to move it along, even though the Freedom Caucus wants more. But getting it to the president's desk may still be extremely difficult to get done because in the Senate there is growing opposition. The reason? Apparently, senators want something more permanent. Right now, 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats say they'll vote against it, and if so, that will kill it, and that would shut down the government, unless they come up with something else. And there are other possibilities, all of them complicated. Peter Ducey with the news. He's live on Capitol Hill. Peter, what's happening?
Shep, there were many different interpretations here on Capitol Hill about what the president was trying to say regarding the Children's Health Insurance Program. So the White House went into a little bit more detail, with the deputy press secretary sending us this statement. The president supports the continuing resolution introduced in the House. Congress needs to do its job and provide full funding of our troops and military with a 2-year budget caps deal. However, as the deal is negotiated, the president wants to ensure our military and national security are funded. He will not let it be held hostage by Democrats. But if things go south, and there's really no indication about where exactly we are on the road toward a shutdown because so much is in flux, the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is making contingency plans. He just blasted out an email to his Senate Republican colleagues essentially telling them they may need to cancel their flights home for the weekend. This is what he said in part: "We should all plan to stay through this weekend if Senate Democrats follow through and are willing to shut down the government and the children's health insurance program because they have yet to conclude a deal on DACA. This is an irresponsible position to take, as everything from pay for our military to processing Social Security checks will be affected. I hope not a single Republican is inclined to join them." However, Republicans will be joining them and voting no, including Rand Paul, who hardly ever votes in favor of continuing resolutions because they don't come with matching spending cuts, Mike Rounds, who thinks the short-term spending bills are bad for the Defense Department, and Lindsey Graham, who is very upset with leadership for turning up their nose at a DACA proposal he worked on with Democratic Senator Dick Durbin. All that, you also have to factor in that Senator John McCain is still not in Washington. He is still in Arizona recovering from brain cancer treatment. Shep.
But of course, before you get to the Senate, you have to get this through the House of Representatives. And to get it through the House of Representatives, well, the Democrats are now saying, or the top leader of the Democrats is saying, that having this children's health chip funded is not enough.
Right. The Republicans, as you mentioned, were basically trying to dare Democrats to vote against CHIP. They added CHIP into this 6 years worth of CHIP funding to a 1-month-long budget as a sweetener. But Nancy Pelosi doesn't think it's very sweet.
This is like giving you a bowl of doggy do, put a cherry on top and call it a chocolate sundae. This is nothing.
Just a few minutes ago at the Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy's office at the end of this hallway, there were negotiations ongoing that involved the White House Chief of Staff John Kelly about DACA. Democrats insist that they are not going to support any deal to fund the government that does not include a fix for these people who were brought into the country illegally as children, basically so that they can stay as adults. But that meeting just broke up, and we have no indication that a deal was made. Shep.
Peter Ducey on Capitol Hill, obviously in flux. We'll go back to him as events warrant. Let's turn to Alex Eisenstadt for now, a reporter for Politico, who's live in their newsroom. They included 6 years of funding for the children's. Mainly, this is money for kids who don't have a lot of money, whose families don't have a lot of money to take care of their health or whatever, and everybody seems to be on board with that. But they included that funding over a long period of time in this short-term continuing resolution, and then the president said this should be a long-term. I'm still not clear about what the president was doing.
Well, it's not entirely clear, but remember, if you look at over the last 7 or 8 days or so, he's thrown a lot of chaos into this whole negotiating process. I mean, his comments about dreamers and about what he wants out of any kind of deal. He's really been all over the place, and so what you have are a series of very delicate negotiations. It's hard for Republicans to deal on this under normal circumstances, but Trump has been all over the place, and you look at party leadership, leaders from both parties, and they don't know what exactly the president wants right now, whether he'd sign whatever is presented, whether he has certain demands. It's very unclear where the president is right now.
Is the Republican leadership hesitant to bring something to the floor, given that the president has been sort of all over the place on this matter?
Well, perhaps. I mean, though, you've seen, again, a statement today perhaps saying that he would, a statement from the White House saying that he would support the package that the House has been proposing. And ultimately, you'd have to think that the White House would want to avoid a government shutdown on the 1-year anniversary of Trump's inauguration, which would not be a great narrative for the administration heading into the beginning of next week.
He's very good at controlling the narrative, though. Rarely do you see a president who's better at it. And you wonder, though history says it's going to be very hard to blame this on the Democrats, you wonder if maybe he couldn't just get it done.
Well, that's right. I mean, you have Republicans in control of everything, and you pointed to the historical precedent for that and at the top. And look, it's going to be interesting to see what happens if there is a government shutdown. Does that make life even harder for Republicans as they prepare for these already really tough 2018 midterms?
And I wonder if it makes life difficult for Democrats. I mean, they think they're smooth sailing toward a 2018 wave of some sort, as the Democrats put it. And yet you put something in the middle, you never know what's going to go wrong.
You never know. I mean, you could see primaries strengthen against incumbents from both parties. You could see things, you could see a lot of different things develop because it is, you're right, it is January. It is a long ways away from November.
All right, Alex, do you think we get some resolution on this today, or is this one of those things that's just going to get drawn out?
Well, it's unclear. I know some of my colleagues over here have been reporting recently that things are starting to look really dire in the Senate. So even if you get something through the House, it's the Senate that could be the real problem here.
Yeah, sure looks like it. 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats against it. If that holds, it is done. Alex Eisenstadt, thanks a lot. President Trump is said to be furious with his own chief of staff because the chief of staff said the president's campaign promise of a border wall was not fully informed back in the day. The president has fired back, insisting nothing has changed and that he is not backing down, that he has evolved on nothing. The president also weighed on his relationship with John Kelly last hour. We'll have all the details coming up from the Fox News deck on this Thursday afternoon.
I'm Leah Gabriel with a Fox Report and more of today's headlines. A U.S. Marshal is dead and 2 other officers hurt after a shootout. That from the mayor of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, which is west of Philly. The task force was serving an arrest warrant when the suspect opened fire. Investigators say the suspect died after the officers returned fire. A new high-speed train in southern Florida hitting and killing a second person during its first week of service. Officials say the Brightline train hit a man who was trying to cross the tracks in Boynton Beach, which is north of Fort Lauderdale. Happened just days after the train hit a woman in the same city. Police say the security gates were down in both cases. Brightline reports it is cooperating with investigators. And a crane removing an airliner from a cliff in Turkey. The plane skidded off the runway over the weekend and stopped just short of the Black Sea. All 168 people on board got out safely. The news continues with Shepard Smith right after this.
1966.
President Trump this afternoon says he thinks his chief of staff, John Kelly, is doing a terrific job. That statement comes after we got word that the president was furious with Kelly for telling Fox News' Brett Baier that the president was not fully informed when he made one of the major promises of the campaign, the big, beautiful wall with the big, beautiful door along the Mexico border. Sources tell Fox News the president told John Kelly he was very upset with him. Last night on Special Report with Brett Baier, Chief of Staff Kelly told Brett that the president changed his attitude about the wall once officials briefed him. Kelly said President Trump has evolved in the way he looks at things. Still, John Kelly said the president wants a wall along some stretches of the border. Here's how the president responded ahead of his speech in Pennsylvania today.
Well, the wall has been something that I have been very consistent on always. You don't need a wall where you have a mountain. You don't need a wall where you have a wasteland. Everybody knows that. I've been saying that for 3 years, and everybody knows it. But a wall is not necessarily a wall where you have a mountain. So everybody understands it.
The president today also doubled down on his claim that the wall will be paid for directly or indirectly by Mexico. The chief White House correspondent, John Roberts, is live at the White House. Hi, John.
Shep, good afternoon to you. Just another routine day here at the White House. But I think what we're really looking at here is the difference between the simplistic language that a candidate engages in on the campaign and the complex and convoluted logistical process of actually putting into play something that you promised during the campaign. But yesterday we had heard that when he went up on Capitol Hill to try to sell DACA, the fix to that, and the need for more border security, the chief of staff, John Kelly, told the Hispanic caucus that the president's views on the wall during the campaign were not fully informed. Here's what John Kelly told our Brett Baier on Special Report last night.
I told him that, there's been an evolutionary process that this president has gone through as a campaign, and I pointed out to all of the members that were in the room that they all say things during the course of campaigns that may or may not be fully informed. But this president, if you've seen what he's done, he has changed the way he's looked at a number of things.
Sources say that brought a very sharp response from the president, literally the moment that John Kelly got off the set of Special Report last night. It continued when he returned here to the White House, and then the president sent out the tweet this morning where he said, "The wall is the wall, and my positions have not evolved over time." Though just a short time ago at HK Industries, where the president gave that speech as he was touring the plant, he had high praise for John Kelly. Listen here.
He's great. I think he's doing a great job. I think General Kelly's done a really great job. He is a very special guy.
And there's no indication, Shep, this afternoon that John Kelly's job was ever in jeopardy. But when the president is ticked off at you, he lets you know it. There's no question about that.
John Roberts at the White House. John, thanks very much. You heard him mention that the president gave that speech in western Pennsylvania, Coraopolis, Pennsylvania, where Republicans are trying to hold on to a seat in what's usually an extremely red district. The president says that he's there to throw his support behind the Republican candidate, Rick Saccone. Here they are together, greeting each other earlier today. Saccone is set to face off against the Democrat Connor Lamb. Republicans have held that seat for 16 years, but the analysts say this one is looking like it could be a close race come March. John Roberts at the White House. Why so?
Oh, well, I'll tell you about that in just a second. But first of all, it's very interesting, Shep, that the White House was playing down the idea of this being a campaign event for Rick Saccone. The president this morning, as he didn't appear to get the message about Chip when he was tweeting, didn't appear to get the message about Saccone from the White House either, because he tweeted out, quote, "We'll be going to Pennsylvania today in order to give my total support to Rick Saccone, running for Congress in a special election March 13th. Rick is a great guy. We need more Republicans to continue our already successful agenda." I do have to say that the president, while he was touting his tax reform plan there in that speech, did give his full support to Rick Saccone, but it was a speech about tax reform and not about Saccone. The president did say, though, that he's going to come back before that special election on the 13th and do a bigger event for Saccone. The reason for that is, you pointed out earlier, Shep, that this is a seat that's been in Republican hands since 2003. It's a congressional district that the president won by almost 20 points in November of 2016. Mitt Romney won it by 17 points in 2012. And after huge losses in Alabama and Wisconsin's 10th congressional district just last Tuesday, where a seat that was lean Republican went to the Democrat by 11 points. They cannot afford to lose this one. There's a Democratic ripple out there among the electorate. The White House sees that that could turn into a tsunami in November if it doesn't stop the bleeding. So the president going all in to support Saccone here because, Shep, they can't lose this one. It'll be a bloodbath in November if they do.
John Roberts at the White House. Thank you, John. Back to Fox top story of the hour, digging deeper into the debate over spending and the dreamers as the clock ticks for lawmakers to avoid a shutdown. That's next.
The great